you said. The desert can be cruel. It burns a man alive by day, and freezes him stiff by night. It buries bones beneath shifting sands and erases the names of the dead as if they never walked this earth. But some names, some stories, refuse to be forgotten. Sheriff Eli Mercer's was one of them. The sun had never burned hotter, and the land had never felt emptier, as Eli dragged himself across the dust. Blood trickled from the holes torn in his chest and shoulder. His badge, bent and dented, clung stubbornly to his vest. He whispered through cracked lips, "Don't let me die out here." His revolver was heavy in his hand, but useless. Empty. And behind him, death was closing in, riding on hooves and carried by 6 merciless men. Before the blood, before the betrayal, before the desert itself became his grave, Eli Mercer had been the law of Dry Creek. He wasn't a perfect man. No lawman ever is. His temper was quick, his methods sometimes rough, and his heart scarred from the loss of too many friends to too many bullets. But he was fair. And in a land ruled by whiskey, greed, and steel, fairness was rare enough to make him worth following. Dry Creek was no booming town. Just a handful of saloons, a church that leaned sideways when the wind howled, and a main street that turned to mud every spring. But for the farmers and ranchers scattered across the valley, Eli's badge was the only line between them and chaos. For 20 years he held that line. Alone. And for 20 years he thought it would be enough. Until Jonas Pike returned. Jonas and Eli had once been closer than kin. They grew up on the same ranch, broke the same wild horses, and swore blood oaths by the campfire that nothing would ever divide them. But time and temptation carved their own trails. Where Eli took the path of the law, Jonas drifted the other way. It started with poker games and whiskey brawls. Then came cattle rustling, stagecoach holdups, and finally murder. By the time Eli wore the sheriff's star, Jonas wore a black hat and rode with killers. The final break came when Jonas killed a rancher outside of Dry Creek, a good man, unarmed, left bleeding in the dust. Eli swore an arrest warrant that day, and Jonas swore something darker, revenge. Years passed. Dry Creek knew peace again. But the West has a way of bringing old ghosts back, and one summer morning, Jonas Pike rode back into town with 6 men at his back and hate in his eyes. The townsfolk scattered when the gang came thundering down Main Street. Windows slammed shut, mothers dragged their children inside, and the preacher dropped his Bible in the dirt and ran. Eli stood alone in the street, his coat flapping in the hot wind. His revolver was steady, though he knew the odds were stacked 6-1. Jonas dismounted, spitting dust from his mouth. "Well, well? The lawman himself. 20 years, Eli, and you're still standing in my way." Eli's jaw clenched. "And 20 years more if I have to. You've got no place here, Jonas. Ride out before I put you in the ground." The outlaw laughed, a harsh sound that scraped the soul. "This town belongs to me now. And you," he pointed a gloved hand at Eli's badge, "you're the last thing in the way." The first shot came from one of Jonas's men. A shotgun blast shattered a window, showering the street with glass. Eli drew and fired, dropping the man where he stood. Then the street exploded into chaos. Gunfire cracked. Horses screamed. Dust rose in choking clouds. Eli fought like a man possessed. He put down 2 more outlaws with steady, practiced shots. But there were too many. Bullets tore through him, one slamming into his side, another punching through his shoulder. He fell, bleeding, into the dust. The gang's laughter rang in his ears. "Leave him," Jonas sneered. "The desert will finish what we started." And with that they rode out, leaving their old friend to die. Sarah Calloway had already lost everything once. 2 winters past, Jonas Pike's gang had taken her husband, shot him down for refusing to hand over cattle. They left her alone with a broken farm, a broken heart, and a hatred that burned like firewood in her chest. She had no reason to return to Dry Creek. No reason to risk her life for anyone. And yet, when she spotted a figure crawling through the dust outside her ranch, a sheriff's badge glinting faintly in the sun, she could not turn away. She dragged Eli inside her small cabin, fighting to keep him alive. His skin burned with fever. His lips muttered half-formed prayers and curses. She bound his wounds with torn strips of her dress, pressed water to his lips, and whispered, "You're not dying here, Sheriff. Not while I still breathe." For 3 nights she kept vigil by his side. And for 3 nights, Eli clung stubbornly to life. When at last he opened his eyes, weak but alive, he whispered one name. "Jonas." Sarah's hands trembled as she loaded a rifle. "He won't stop," she said. "Not until you're gone. Not until we all are." And she was right. Jonas Pike wasn't the kind of man to leave a job undone. When word reached him that Eli was still alive, his fury boiled hotter than the desert sun. He sent his men sweeping through the valley, hunting the sheriff like wolves chasing a wounded deer. Every hour brought them closer. Eli, still weak, leaned on Sarah's shoulder as they made their way through canyons and over ridges. The sheriff's every step left blood in the dust. His strength faded, but his will held fast. By day, they marched beneath a sun that turned the ground to fire. By night, they hid beneath rocks and trees, listening for the echo of hooves in the distance. Once, Eli caught Sarah staring at him in the firelight. "Why are you doing this?" he asked, voice hoarse. "Because," she said, "if men like you fall, men like him take everything." Her words burned brighter than the fire. But the hunt was closing in. On the 3rd night, they heard Jonas's voice echo through the canyon. "Find him. Bring me his badge. I'll finish the rest myself." Eli knew then, there would be no running. They reached the ridge at dawn. Below, a storm of dust rose from the desert, Jonas Pike and his riders closing fast. Eli turned to Sarah. His face was pale, his body trembling from blood loss. He pressed his revolver into her hands. "There are 2 bullets left. One for him, and one for me, if it comes to it." Sarah shook her head, tears stinging her eyes. "No. We fight together." The sun bled red across the horizon as the gang rode up the ridge. Eli stood tall, though his body screamed with pain. Sarah stood beside him, rifle in hand, her heart pounding like thunder. Jonas dismounted, sneering at the sight of his old friend still breathing. "You should have stayed down, Eli." "And you," Eli rasped, "should have stayed honest." The standoff stretched like a drawn bowstring. Then it snapped. Gunfire erupted. Sarah's rifle cracked, dropping one outlaw in his saddle. Eli fired, his aim still true despite the tremor in his hands. Bullets tore through the morning air, each shot ringing with years of justice and vengeance. The ridge became a battlefield. Horses reared and screamed. Dust rose like smoke. Blood stained the stones. One by one, Jonas's men fell. But Eli took another bullet, staggering to his knees. Sarah fired again, covering him, her fury burning hotter than fear. When the smoke cleared, only 2 figures remained standing. Sheriff Eli Mercer and Jonas Pike. The 2 men stared at each other, lawman and outlaw, brothers once, enemies now. Jonas's eyes burned with hate. Eli's burned with something deeper, sorrow. 20 years, Jonas spat, raising his revolver. "And it comes to this." 20 years, Eli whispered. "And I still hoped you'd turn back." Jonas drew first. But Eli's hand, slow with pain but steady with purpose, was faster. One final shot split the silence. Jonas staggered, staring at the blood spreading across his chest. He dropped to his knees, laughter bubbling weakly from his lips. "You still think you're the better man?" he gasped. Eli limped forward, pressing the barrel of his revolver to his old friend's heart. "No, Jonas," he whispered. "Just the last one standing." The outlaw's eyes went dark. And with him, the shadow over Dry Creek died. When the gunsmoke cleared, only silence remained. Eli Mercer collapsed, the weight of his years, his wounds, and his choices pressing down on him. Sarah caught him before he hit the ground, her tears mixing with the dust. The lawman had survived, but he would never be the same. His body bore scars that would never heal. His heart carried the memory of a brother turned enemy. And yet, for one more day, he had stood. For one more day, the law had not fallen. In the Wild West, sometimes, that was enough. If you enjoyed this video, please share with your loved ones, like the video, and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this.